Improve your English with powerful stories. Follow the subtitles, practice your listening, and dive into emotional journeys. Let's begin.
Hi, my name is Emily. For years, my husband Mark and I dreamed of having a family. We imagined the laughter, the bedtime stories, the little hands holding ours. But life had other plans. After countless attempts and heartbreaks, we realized that our path to parenthood would be different. We decided to adopt. The idea was both exciting and terrifying. We didn't know what to expect. Would we be good parents? Would we be able to love a child who wasn't biologically ours? But deep down, we knew we had so much love to give. Little did we know, our lives were about to change in ways we never imagined. The day we met Sarah is forever etched in my memory. We walked into the orphanage, nervous but hopeful. The social worker led us to a small playroom, and there she was, a little girl with bright eyes and a shy smile. She was sitting in the corner, quietly stacking blocks. The social worker explained that Sarah had special needs. She had been through more in her short life than most people experience in a lifetime. Mark and I knelt down to her level, trying not to overwhelm her. I said hello, and for a moment, she just stared at us. Then slowly, she handed me a block. It was such a small gesture, but it felt huge. Mark and I looked at each other, and without saying a word, we knew she was meant to be ours. Leaving the orphanage that day, we felt a mix of emotions: joy, fear, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. But one thing was certain, our lives were about to change forever. The first few months with Sarah were tougher than we expected. She was quiet and withdrawn, often retreating to her room for hours. She had trouble trusting us, and it broke our hearts to see her so guarded. There were nights when she would cry uncontrollably, and no matter what we did, we couldn't comfort her. Mark and I felt helpless, questioning if we were really ready for this. I remember one particularly hard day. Sarah had thrown a tantrum, and I was on the verge of tears myself. Mark sat me down and said, "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we also knew it would be worth it." His words reminded me why we chose this path. Slowly, we started to see small signs of progress. One day, Sarah let me brush her hair without pulling away. Another time, she laughed at a silly face Mark made. Those moments, though small, gave us hope. We realized that building trust takes time, and we were willing to wait no matter how long it took. One night, I heard Sarah crying in her room. She had a nightmare, something that happened more often than we liked. I went to her, unsure if she would push me away like she usually did. But this time was different. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and reached out her arms. I held her tight, rocking her gently until her sobs turned into quiet sniffles. She fell asleep in my arms, her tiny hands clutching my shirt. In that moment, I felt something shift. It was as if she had finally let down her walls, even if just a little. From that day on, Sarah started to trust us more. She began to seek us out when she was scared or needed comfort. Mark and I learned to understand her unique way of communicating, whether it was a tug on my sleeve or a certain look in her eyes. We were becoming a family, not just in name, but in heart. Over time, Sarah started to bloom. She began to communicate in her own way, sometimes with gestures, sometimes with sounds, and eventually with a few words. Her laughter, which had been so rare at first, became a constant melody in our home. She loved music, and we often caught her humming along to her favorite songs. One day, Sarah surprised us by pointing to a picture book and saying, "Mama." It was the first time she had called me that, and it brought tears to my eyes. Mark and I realized that her special needs weren't limitations, they were just part of what made her unique. She taught us patience, resilience, and the true meaning of unconditional love. Sarah's progress wasn't just a victory for her. It was a victory for all of us. Every small step she took reminded us of how far we had come as a family. She was no longer just our daughter, she was our greatest teacher. Sarah didn't just change our lives, she changed everyone around her. Our friends and family saw how much joy she brought us, and some even started considering adoption themselves. My sister, who had always been hesitant about the idea, told me, Seeing you with Sarah made me realize that family isn't about biology, it's about love. Mark and I often talked about how different our lives were now. Before Sarah, we had been so focused on what we couldn't have, but she showed us that sometimes the greatest blessings come in ways we never expect. She taught us to see the beauty in imperfection and to celebrate every small victory. Our home, once quiet and predictable, was now filled with laughter, messes, and endless surprises. Sarah had given us a new purpose, a new way of seeing the world. She wasn't just our daughter, she was the missing piece we didn't even know we were looking for. Today, when I look at Sarah, I see a brave, loving, and incredible little girl who taught us more about life than we ever imagined. She showed us that love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, every day, no matter what. If you're thinking about adoption, or if you're facing a challenge that seems too big to overcome, remember this: love has the power to transform lives. Sometimes all it takes is one brave decision to change everything. Thank you for letting me share our story. Whether it's through adoption, kindness, or simply being there for someone who needs you, I hope it inspires you to open your heart. Because in the end, love is what truly makes a family.
Thank you so much for joining me today and practicing your English with this powerful story. I hope it inspired you and reminded you of the strength we all have to overcome challenges. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear this story. Your support means the world to me. Remember, every story has the power to change us. Keep practicing your English, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and keep learning.